Hello and welcome to Napflix. Tonight we're going to wander through the quiet, extraordinary world of food. Not recipes or diets, just stories. The kind of stories that live inside every ingredient you've ever tasted. The bread on your table is 14,000 years old. The honey in your cupboard may never spoil. The salt in your kitchen once toppled empires, and the chocolate you eat for pleasure was once used as money. We have 100 of these stories to share with you tonight. You'll meet a goat herder in Ethiopia whose dancing goats discovered coffee, a Japanese chemist who identified a taste nobody had a name for, a French chef who invented the modern kitchen. You'll learn why saffron costs more than gold, why bananas are clones, and why tomatoes were feared for centuries. But none of that matters as much as this. You are here to rest. So settle in. Let your body grow heavy. Let the warmth of these stories carry you somewhere comfortable. If you enjoy what you hear, a like, a subscribe, or even just a quiet comment helps others find their way here too. Let's begin. Bread is humanity's oldest prepared food. And when you tear open a warm loaf, you are participating in a ritual that stretches back more than 14,000 years. Long before agriculture, long before pottery, long before writing or cities or the wheel, humans were grinding wild grains between stones, mixing the rough flour with water, and cooking flat discs on heated rocks. These were not the soft, risen loaves we know today. They were dense, gritty, and simple. Little more than grain paste transformed by fire, but they were food that could be made, carried, and shared. The discovery of leavened bread that rises, almost certainly happened by accident. Someone left their dough sitting too long. Wild yeast drifting through the air settled into the wet mixture, feeding on the sugars and producing tiny bubbles of carbon dioxide. The dough swelled. When baked, it was lighter, softer, more flavorful than anything that had come before. The ancient Egyptians mastered this technique, developing dozens of bread varieties and building an entire economy around them. Bread was used to pay the workers who constructed the pyramids. It was offered to gods in temples. The hieroglyph for bread appeared hundreds of times in their written language, woven into the very structure of their communication. For 14,000 years, bread has nourished civilizations, sparked revolutions through its scarcity, and brought people together around shared tables. Every loaf you eat is a continuation of humanity's oldest conversation with grain, water, and fire. Honey never spoils. Archaeologists have opened sealed pots of honey in Egyptian tombs, 3,000 years old, and found them still perfectly edible. This extraordinary preservation happens because honey is a supersaturated sugar solution with almost no moisture. Bacteria simply cannot survive in such an environment. Bees also add an enzyme called glucose oxidase during production, which generates small amounts of hydrogen peroxide, giving honey natural antibacterial properties that further protect it from decay. The process of making honey is itself remarkable. A single honeybee visits between 50 and 1,000 flowers on each foraging trip, collecting tiny droplets of nectar in a specialized honey stomach. Back at the hive, she passes this nectar mouth to other bees, each one adding enzymes that break down complex sugars into simpler ones. The nectar is then deposited into honeycomb cells, and bees fan their wings over it for hours, evaporating excess moisture until the honey reaches the perfect consistency, roughly 18% water. Then they seal the cell with a cap of beeswax, and the honey is preserved. Different flowers produce entirely different honeys. Clover honey is mild and golden. Buckwheat honey is dark and robust, almost like molasses. Orange blossom honey carries the faint perfume of citrus groves. Manuka honey from New Zealand has become famous for its medicinal properties. Each jar captures not just sweetness, but the essence of a landscape. Thousands of flowers concentrated by thousands of bees into liquid gold that will never go bad. The tomato was feared for centuries. When tomatoes first arrived in Europe from the Americas in the 16th century, they were met with suspicion and dread. Wealthy Europeans ate from pewter plates with high lead content, and the acidic juice of the tomato would leach lead from the plate, causing lead poisoning. People blamed the fruit, not the plate. The tomato belonged to the nightshade family, which includes several genuinely poisonous plants: belladonna, mandrake, henbane. And this association cemented its dangerous reputation. For 200 years, tomatoes were grown as ornamental curiosities in European gardens. People admired their bright red fruit but would not eat them. Some called them poison apples. It was not until the 18th and 19th centuries, first in southern Italy and then gradually across Europe, that tomatoes were accepted as food. Italian cooks paired them with pasta. Spanish cooks blended them into gazpacho. Once fear gave way to curiosity, tomatoes became indispensable. And today it is nearly impossible to imagine Italian, Mexican, Indian, or American cuisine without them. Scientists have since identified over 10,000 tomato varieties, from tiny cherry tomatoes that burst with sweetness to massive beefsteaks, perfect for slicing. The transformation from feared ornament to one of the world's most essential ingredients took centuries of slow, brave tasting. Chocolate began its journey not as candy, but as currency. The ancient Maya and Aztec civilizations valued cacao beans so highly that they used them as money. A turkey cost 100 cacao beans. A rabbit might be worth 10. A single avocado could be had for 3. The beans were precious because the cacao tree grows only in specific tropical climates, making them difficult to cultivate and relatively rare. The chocolate drink these civilizations created was nothing like the sweet hot chocolate we know today. They roasted and ground cacao beans, then mixed the powder with water, chili peppers, cornmeal, and other spices, creating a bitter, frothy, spicy beverage called zocolatl, meaning bitter water. This drink was reserved for nobility, warriors, and sacred ceremonies. It was believed to provide strength, courage, and divine wisdom. When Spanish explorers brought cacao back to Europe in the 16th century, they added sugar and vanilla, transforming the bitter drink into something the European palate could embrace. For 200 years, chocolate remained a luxury drink of the aristocracy. It was not until the 19th century, with the invention of the cocoa press and later the solid chocolate bar, that chocolate became accessible to ordinary people. Today, the global chocolate industry is worth over $100 billion. But its origins as sacred currency remind us that this everyday treat was once more valuable than gold and bitter enough to make a warrior wince. Salt shaped civilizations in ways we rarely pause to consider. The word salary comes from the Latin sal, salt, because Roman soldiers were sometimes paid in salt rations. Before refrigeration, salt was the only reliable way to preserve food. Meat, fish, and vegetables could be packed in salt or submerged in brine, allowing them to last months or even years. Communities with access to salt could survive winters, undertake long journeys, and trade their preserved goods over vast distances. Communities without salt faced starvation. This made salt one of the most strategically important substances in the ancient world. Salt routes crisscrossed continents. The Via Salaria in Italy, one of Rome's oldest roads, was built specifically for transporting salt. African caravans crossed the Sahara for months, trading salt for gold, weight for weight. In some regions, control over salt sources meant power, wealth, and the ability to dictate terms to neighbors. Cities rose around salt. Salzburg, whose name literally means salt castle, became one of the wealthiest cities in Europe through its salt mines. Venice built its maritime empire partly on the salt trade. Wars were fought over salt deposits. Governments taxed it so heavily that salt taxes contributed to the French Revolution and inspired Gandhi's famous March to the Sea. The humble salt on your table connects you to a vast history of commerce, survival, and political upheaval stretching back thousands of years. Saffron is worth more than gold by weight. And the reason is simple arithmetic. Each crocus flower produces only 3 tiny stigmas, and these must be hand-harvested during a brief autumn flowering window that lasts just 2 weeks. It takes roughly 150 flowers to produce a single gram of dried saffron. A pound requires the harvest of 50,000 to 75,000 flowers, each one picked by hand in the early morning, before the sun damages the delicate threads. This explains why saffron has been precious for over 3,500 years. It appears in ancient Minoan frescoes, Egyptian medical texts, and classical Greek and Roman literature. Cleopatra reportedly bathed in saffron-infused milk. Ancient healers prescribed it for everything from depression to digestive ailments. Its brilliant golden yellow color made it invaluable as a dye for royal robes and religious garments. Today, roughly 90% of the world's saffron comes from Iran, with smaller quantities from Spain, India, and Greece. When added to Spanish paella, Italian risotto Milanese, or Persian rice, saffron imparts a distinctive earthy, honey-like flavor and that unmistakable golden hue. A tiny pinch is enough to transform an entire dish, which is fortunate because even a small amount of this precious spice represents the work of many hands and many flowers. Vanilla comes from an orchid, and the orchid blooms for just 1 day. The vanilla orchid is native to Mexico, where the Totonac people first cultivated it over 1,000 years ago. The Aztecs later conquered the Totonacs and discovered vanilla, using it to flavor their royal chocolate drinks. When Spanish conquistadors arrived, they brought vanilla back to Europe, where it became one of the most prized flavors among the wealthy. But growing vanilla outside Mexico proved nearly impossible because the orchid relies on a specific species of bee, the melipone, found only in its native habitat. Without this bee, the flowers could not be pollinated and no pods would form. The problem was not solved until 1841, when a 12-year-old enslaved boy named Edmond Albius, on the island of Réunion, developed a technique for hand-pollinating the flowers using a thin stick and his thumb. His method is still used today. Each flower must be pollinated individually, by hand, on the single day it blooms. After pollination, the pods take 9 months to mature. They are then harvested and undergo a curing process lasting several more months, dried in the sun by day, wrapped in blankets to sweat at night, developing the 300 or more compounds that create vanilla's complex flavor. Real vanilla is the second most expensive spice in the world after saffron. When you taste it, you are tasting the work of a 12-year-old boy's invention, an orchid's single day of flowering and months of patient human care. The Maillard reaction is the reason cooked food tastes so much better than raw food, and almost nobody knows its name. In 1912, French chemist Louis-Camille Maillard published a paper describing what happens when amino acids and sugars are heated together. They undergo a complex cascade of chemical reactions, hundreds of them happening simultaneously, that produce entirely new flavor compounds, aromas, and the characteristic golden brown color we associate with delicious food. The sear on a steak, the crust on bread, the golden surface of a roasted potato, the toasted edge of a marshmallow, the deep amber of caramelized onions, the crackling skin of a roast chicken. All of these are the Maillard reaction at work. Without it, food would taste flat, pale, and uninteresting. The reaction begins at around 140 degrees Celsius, well above the boiling point of water, which is why boiled food rarely develops the same depth of flavor as roasted, grilled, or fried food. This is also why chefs pat meat dry before searing it. Surface moisture must evaporate before the Maillard reaction can begin. The reaction produces hundreds of different compounds depending on the specific amino acids and sugars involved, which is why a seared steak smells different from toasted bread, which smells different from roasted coffee. Each combination creates its own unique flavor fingerprint. The Maillard reaction is not caramelization. That is a separate process involving only sugars. It is something more complex, more varied, and more fundamental to why we love the food we love. Spices launched expeditions that redrew the map of the world. In medieval Europe, spices like pepper, cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg were worth more than their weight in gold. They flavored bland preserved food, disguised the taste of meat past its prime, and were believed to have powerful medicinal properties. But these spices grew only in distant tropical regions, the Malabar coast of India, the islands of Indonesia, the forests of Sri Lanka. And the overland trade routes were controlled by Arab and Venetian merchants who charged enormous markups at every stage. European powers desperately wanted to bypass these middlemen and access spices directly. This desire motivated the Portuguese to sail around Africa to reach India. It inspired Christopher Columbus to sail west, hoping to reach Asia by a different route. And stumbling instead upon the Americas, Ferdinand Magellan's crew became the first to circumnavigate the globe in pursuit of the Spice Islands of Indonesia. The Dutch East India Company, formed specifically to control the spice trade, became the most powerful corporation in history, waging wars, colonizing territories, and destroying nutmeg trees on islands it did not control to keep prices high. The competition for spices shaped the colonial era, redrew national boundaries, and connected continents that had never been in contact. Today, a jar of cinnamon costs a few pounds. A bag of peppercorns is pocket change, but each pinch carries with it a history of adventure, exploitation, and the extraordinary lengths humans will go to for flavor. Rice feeds more than half the people on Earth. This single grain, cultivated for at least 10,000 years, has shaped entire civilizations across Asia and beyond. In many Asian languages, the words for rice and food are the same or closely related, a linguistic clue to how central rice is to daily existence. Unlike wheat, which grows best in temperate climates, rice thrives in tropical and subtropical regions, making it ideal for the densely populated areas of South and Southeast Asia. It can grow in flooded paddies, on hillside terraces carved by hand over generations, or in dry upland fields, adapting to almost any warm environment. Traditional rice farming was inherently communal. Neighbors helped each other plant and harvest, strengthening social bonds through shared labor. The terraced rice paddies of Bali, the Philippines, and southern China, carved into mountainsides over centuries, represent thousands of hours of collective engineering and are among the most beautiful agricultural landscapes on Earth. There are over 40,000 varieties of rice. Basmati from India has a distinctive floral aroma and fluffy texture. Japanese short-grain rice is sticky and perfect for sushi. Thai jasmine rice is fragrant and slightly sweet. Italian arborio rice is starchy and ideal for risotto. Whether steamed, fried, ground into flour, or fermented into sake, rice provides versatile nourishment to billions. Each bowl represents millennia of cultivation and a grain that quietly sustains more human lives than any other. Coffee began, according to legend, with a goat herder named Kaldi in the Ethiopian highlands. Kaldi noticed that his goats became unusually energetic after eating the bright red berries from a certain tree, leaping and dancing rather than settling to rest. Curious, he tried the berries himself and felt unusually alert. He brought them to a local monastery, where monks discovered that brewing the berries into a drink helped them stay awake during long evening prayers. Whether the story is true or simply a good origin myth, the Ethiopian highlands are indeed where coffee originated. From Ethiopia, coffee spread to the Arabian Peninsula, where it was cultivated in Yemen. By the 15th century, coffee houses had appeared in Mecca, Cairo, and Istanbul, becoming centers of social life where people gathered to drink coffee, exchange news, play chess, and discuss politics. These establishments were sometimes called schools of the wise. European travelers encountered coffee in Ottoman coffee houses and brought it home, where it quickly gained popularity despite initial religious suspicion. Some called it the devil's drink, until Pope Clement VIII tried it and reportedly declared it so delicious that it would be a sin to leave it to the infidels alone. Today, coffee is grown in over 70 countries, consumed in virtually every nation, and is the second most traded commodity on Earth after crude oil. Each morning cup connects you to a vast global network, and perhaps to a curious goat herder who watched his animals dance. The heat of a chili pepper is not a flavor. It is a trick played on your pain receptors. Chili peppers contain a compound called capsaicin, which binds to the TRPV1 receptor in your mouth, the same receptor that detects actual burning heat. Your brain receives the signal and interprets it as pain, triggering sweating, flushing, watery eyes, and a racing heart. But there is no actual temperature change. No tissue is being damaged. The sensation is entirely an illusion, one that millions of people actively seek out because capsaicin also triggers the release of endorphins, the body's natural painkillers, creating a mild euphoria that makes spicy food genuinely addictive. The intensity of this heat is measured on the Scoville scale, developed by pharmacist Wilbur Scoville in 1912. A bell pepper scores 0, no capsaicin at all. A jalapeno ranges from 2,500 to 8,000 units. A habanero reaches 100,000 to 350,000. The Carolina Reaper, bred specifically for extreme heat, exceeds 2 million Scoville units. Different cultures built entire cuisines around different peppers. Mexican cooking uses jalapenos, serranos, and poblanos. Thai cuisine features the tiny, ferocious bird's eye chili. Indian cooking employs dozens of fresh and dried varieties. Korean cuisine relies on gochugaru, dried pepper flakes that form the backbone of kimchi. Every bite of something spicy is a conversation between plant chemistry and human neurology, one that has been shaping cuisines for thousands of years. In 1908, a Japanese chemist named Kikunae Ikeda sat down to a bowl of dashi, a traditional broth made from kombu seaweed, and asked a question that would change how we understand taste. The broth was savory, rich, and deeply satisfying, but it was not salty, not sweet, not sour, and not bitter. It was something else entirely. Ikeda spent months isolating the compound responsible and identified it as glutamate, an amino acid present in kombu, aged cheeses, ripe tomatoes, cured meats, and fermented foods. He named this new taste umami, roughly translating to pleasant, savory taste. Western science initially dismissed the idea. The 4 basic tastes, sweet, sour, salty, bitter, had been accepted for centuries, and the notion of a 5th seemed unnecessary. It was not until 2002, nearly a century after Ikeda's discovery, that scientists confirmed umami receptors on the human tongue, validating what Japanese cuisine had recognized all along. Umami is the taste of depth, of richness, of the satisfying savoriness that makes you close your eyes and exhale. It is why Parmesan cheese is so compelling, why a slow-cooked stew satisfies in ways a salad cannot, why soy sauce transforms a simple dish. Ikeda commercialized his discovery as monosodium glutamate, MSG, which remains controversial despite extensive scientific evidence of its safety. But umami itself is everywhere, hiding in plain taste, waiting to be noticed. Fermentation is one of humanity's oldest technologies. Older than metalworking, older than writing, older than the wheel. It is the process by which microorganisms, bacteria, yeasts, molds, break down sugars and starches in food, transforming raw ingredients into something entirely new. Our ancestors discovered it by accident, probably many times over. Milk left in warm conditions became yogurt. Grape juice stored in a vessel became wine. Cabbage packed in salt became sauerkraut. Soybeans left to sit became miso, then soy sauce. In each case, invisible organisms did the work, consuming one thing and producing another, creating flavors, textures, and preservation that would have seemed miraculous to people who could not see the creatures responsible. Nearly every culture on Earth developed fermented foods. Koreans created kimchi, spicy, pungent, alive with lactobacillus bacteria that could sustain families through harsh winters. Eastern Europeans made sauerkraut for the same reason. Ethiopians fermented teff grain into injera. Japanese fermented soybeans into natto. Icelanders buried shark meat and let it ferment for months. The diversity is extraordinary, but the principle is the same. Controlled microbial transformation that preserves food, enhances nutrition, and creates flavors that no other cooking method can replicate. The tang of sourdough, the funk of blue cheese, the depth of fish sauce, the sparkle of kombucha, all fermentation, all the quiet work of organisms too small to see, shaping the food that shapes us. The potato changed European history and very nearly destroyed Ireland in the process, native to the Andes Mountains of South America, where indigenous peoples had cultivated hundreds of varieties at different altitudes for thousands of years. The potato arrived in Europe in the 16th century and was met with suspicion. It grew underground. It resembled deformed roots. It belonged to the nightshade family. But the potato had remarkable advantages that would eventually overcome every objection. It could grow in poor soil where grain crops failed. It produced more calories per acre than wheat or barley. It could be left in the ground until needed, serving as its own storage system. Slowly, the potato spread across Europe, becoming a staple food, particularly in Ireland, where the population grew rapidly on the back of potato cultivation. A single acre of potatoes could feed a family for a year. But this dependence had catastrophic consequences. In the 1840s, a fungal blight swept through Ireland's potato fields, destroying crop after crop. The Great Famine that followed killed over 1 million people and forced millions more to emigrate. To America, to Canada, to Australia, forever changing Ireland's population, culture, and relationship with the land. The famine was not simply a natural disaster. It was compounded by British policies that continued to export food from Ireland even as people starved. The potato story is one of both miraculous abundance and devastating vulnerability. A reminder that depending too heavily on any single thing, no matter how nourishing, carries profound risk. Some olive trees alive today were producing fruit when the Roman Empire was at its height. The olive tree is among the longest living trees on Earth. with some specimens in the Mediterranean estimated to be over 2,000 years old. These ancient trees, gnarled, twisted, hollowed by centuries of wind and weather, still bear fruit every year. In the groves of Crete, southern Italy, and the hills of Palestine, trees that may have fed Roman soldiers, early Christians, and medieval merchants continue to produce olives as they have for millennia. The olive was central to Mediterranean civilization in ways that are difficult to overstate. Olive oil was used for cooking, lighting lamps, anointing bodies, and conducting religious ceremonies. In ancient Greece, olive crowns were awarded to Olympic champions. The olive branch became a universal symbol of peace. The tree's ability to grow in poor, rocky soil and withstand long drought made it invaluable in the harsh, sun-baked landscapes of the Mediterranean basin. Harvesting olives remains, in many places, much as it has for centuries. Nets spread beneath the trees, workers shaking branches with long poles, ripe olives tumbling down. The oil is extracted by crushing the fruit and pressing out the liquid, a process refined over thousands of years, but fundamentally unchanged. When you drizzle olive oil over a salad or dip bread into a shallow dish of it, you are tasting a flavor that humans have treasured since before the alphabet was invented. Every banana you buy at the supermarket is a genetic clone of every other banana of the same variety. The Cavendish, which dominates global banana trade, is propagated through cuttings, not seeds. If you have ever noticed that shop-bought bananas contain no seeds, that is because they have been cultivated for thousands of years to be seedless. Wild bananas are full of hard, unpleasant seeds. Early cultivators in Southeast Asia selected mutations that produced seedless fruit, then propagated these plants vegetatively, cutting and replanting rather than growing from seed. This cloning creates perfect consistency. Every Cavendish banana tastes the same, ripens the same, ships the same. But it also creates catastrophic vulnerability. In the 1950s, the Gros Michel, then the world's dominant banana variety, said to have been more flavorful than the Cavendish, was wiped out by a fungal disease called Panama disease. The entire global banana industry had to pivot to the Cavendish, which was resistant. Now, a new strain of Panama disease, Tropical Race 4, threatens the Cavendish, and scientists are racing to find solutions before history repeats itself. The banana is a reminder that genetic uniformity, however convenient, is the opposite of resilience. And that the fruit we take for granted exists on a knife edge between abundance and extinction. Cheese is controlled decay, one of humanity's most ingenious inventions, transforming perishable milk into food that can last for months or years. The basic process, discovered thousands of years ago, involves curdling milk with acid or rennet, separating the solid curds from the liquid whey, and then aging the curds while carefully managing bacteria and mold. What makes cheese endlessly fascinating is that it is essentially a collaboration with microorganisms. Specific bacteria and molds are encouraged to grow, while harmful ones are kept at bay. The milk source matters. Cow, goat, sheep, and buffalo all produce milk with different fat contents, proteins, and flavors. The bacterial cultures added during production determine the cheese's character. The aging environment, temperature, humidity, the presence of specific molds shapes the final product over weeks, months, or years. Cheddar, aged for years, develops sharp, crystalline complexity. Fresh mozzarella, eaten within days of production, is soft and milky. Blue cheeses like Roquefort and Gorgonzola are pierced with needles to introduce mold spores that create blue-green veins and pungent, complex flavors. Brie and Camembert develop white mold rinds that slowly break down the interior into flowing cream. Washed rind cheeses are bathed regularly in brine or alcohol, encouraging bacteria that produce powerful aromas. There are thousands of cheese varieties worldwide, each one a controlled experiment in decay. Proof that some of the most delicious things in life are created not by preventing change, but by guiding it. Tea has been sipped for at least 2,000 years, and in that time it has fueled empires, inspired revolutions, and given rise to some of the most refined rituals in human culture. Archaeological evidence confirms tea cultivation in China dating back millennia, though legend places its discovery even earlier, with Emperor Shen Nung in 2737 BCE, when tea leaves supposedly blew into his pot of boiling water. The Chinese developed multiple methods of processing tea leaves from the same plant, Camellia sinensis, creating green tea, black tea, oolong, white tea, and pu'er, each with profoundly different flavors achieved through different levels of oxidation. Green tea leaves are quickly heated to prevent oxidation, preserving their bright color and fresh, grassy flavor. Black tea leaves are fully oxidized, turning dark and developing robust, malty depth. Oolong sits between the two, partially oxidized, producing complex and balanced characteristics. Tea spread first to Japan, where it became central to Zen Buddhist practice and gave rise to the tea ceremony, a ritual of mindfulness, precision, and aesthetic beauty that can take years to master. European traders brought tea westward, where it became so popular in Britain that it reshaped global trade. The British Empire established vast tea plantations in India and Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, to satisfy demand. Tea even helped spark a revolution. The Boston Tea Party of 1773 became a defining moment in American independence. Today, whether it is a delicate Chinese white tea, a robust English breakfast blend, or a spiced Indian chai, tea remains the world's most consumed beverage after water. The corn you eat today looks nothing like its ancestor, because it was engineered kernel by kernel over thousands of years of human selection. Modern corn, with its large cobs packed with hundreds of plump kernels, descends from a wild grass called teosinte, which still grows in Mexico. Teosinte produces tiny ears with fewer than a dozen small, hard seeds enclosed in tough casings. To the untrained eye, it looks nothing like corn. But ancient Mesoamerican farmers noticed that some teosinte plants produced slightly larger seeds or slightly softer casings, and they saved those seeds to plant the following season. Generation after generation, selection by selection, they gradually transformed teosinte into maize, one of the most dramatic genetic transformations ever achieved through traditional breeding. By the time Europeans arrived in the Americas, indigenous peoples had developed hundreds of corn varieties adapted to climates from sea level to high mountain valleys. Corn became the foundation of civilizations. The Maya, Aztec, and Inca all depended on it as their primary staple. It appears in their creation myths, their religious ceremonies, and their art. And unlike wheat or rice, which existed as recognizable food plants before domestication, corn cannot survive without humans. Its kernels are so tightly packed and wrapped in husks that they cannot disperse naturally. Corn depends on us to plant it, just as millions of humans came to depend on corn to survive. It is a partnership so complete that neither party can walk away. The avocado nearly went extinct because the giant animals that were supposed to spread its seeds disappeared 13,000 years ago. The avocado evolved millions of years ago to be eaten by megafauna. Ground sloths the size of elephants, gomphotheres, and other enormous creatures that roam the Americas. These animals would swallow avocados whole, walk miles away, and excrete the large seed in a new location, wrapped in natural fertilizer. The system worked perfectly for millions of years. Then the megafauna went extinct, likely from a combination of climate change and human hunting. Without their primary seed dispersers, avocados should have vanished. The seed is too large for most modern animals to swallow and carry. Wild avocados became rare, confined to small pockets where rivers or occasional animals could move seeds short distances. But humans intervened. People in Mesoamerica began cultivating avocados over 5,000 years ago, recognizing the fruit's value and planting it deliberately. They saved the avocado from extinction. The Hass variety, which accounts for roughly 80% of avocados eaten worldwide today, originated from a single tree grown from a seed planted by a mail carrier named Rudolf Hass in California in the 1920s. Every Hass avocado tree alive today is grafted from that one original. When you slice open an avocado, you are eating a fruit designed for animals that no longer exist, rescued from oblivion by human appetite. Garlic has been protecting humans for at least 5,000 years. Ancient Egyptians fed it to workers building the pyramids, believing it gave them strength and stamina. Greek athletes ate it before competitions. Roman soldiers chewed it before battle. Ancient medical texts from Egypt, Greece, Rome, China, and India all prescribe garlic for ailments ranging from infections to digestive complaints. The compound responsible for garlic's pungent smell and many of its benefits is allicin, which forms only when garlic is crushed, chopped, or chewed, breaking cell walls and allowing an enzyme to convert a stable precursor into this potent molecule. Allicin has genuine antibacterial and antifungal properties. During the First World War, when antibiotics were scarce, garlic juice was applied directly to wounds to prevent infection. It became known as Russian penicillin during the Second World War, when the Soviet Union used it extensively for treating soldiers. Roasting garlic transforms it entirely. The harsh, sharp bite softens into something sweet, buttery, and caramelized, spreadable on bread like a savory jam. The chemistry changes with heat, creating new compounds and mellowing the aggressive allicin. Different cultures have found their own relationship with garlic. Mediterranean cooking uses it generously. Asian cuisines feature it in stir-fries and sauces. Middle Eastern dishes combine it with lemon and olive oil. The vampire mythology surrounding garlic likely arose from its powerful smell and protective reputation. A bulb so potent it could ward off evil itself. Cinnamon sparked exploration and empire. This aromatic bark, stripped from trees native to Sri Lanka and southern India, was prized throughout the ancient world. Egyptians used it in embalming mixtures. Romans burned it at funerals. Emperor Nero reportedly set fire to an entire year's supply at his wife's funeral as a display of grief and extravagant wealth. For centuries, Arab traders controlled the cinnamon trade, transporting it along grueling overland routes and keeping its source a closely guarded secret. They told fantastical stories to discourage competition, claiming cinnamon grew in deep valleys guarded by giant birds, or that it was fished from the waters of the Nile. These myths kept rivals away and prices impossibly high. European powers, desperate to access cinnamon directly, funded voyages that helped launch the age of exploration. The Portuguese finally reached Ceylon, now Sri Lanka, in 1505 and seized control of the cinnamon trade. The Dutch took it from them. Then, the British took it from the Dutch. 3 empires fighting over tree bark. Today, cinnamon is cheap and ubiquitous, grown in Sri Lanka, Indonesia, China, and Vietnam. True Ceylon cinnamon is milder and more complex than the more common cassia cinnamon sold in most supermarkets. When you sprinkle cinnamon on your porridge or stir it into a cake batter, you are using a spice that once inspired adventure, secrecy, and conquest. Now so ordinary, you barely think about it. The apple you bite into today is a descendant of wild apples that originated in the mountains of Kazakhstan. These wild apples, Malus sieversii, still grow there in forests where bears feast on fallen fruit, and the trees produce an astonishing range of sizes, colors, and flavors. As humans migrated along the Silk Road, they carried apple seeds with them. Everywhere apples went, they crossed with local wild species, creating extraordinary diversity. By the time apples reached ancient Greece and Rome, dozens of varieties existed. The Romans cultivated apples throughout their empire, spreading them across Europe. Each region developed favorites suited to local climates, some for eating fresh, others for cooking, and still others for making cider, which in medieval times was often safer to drink than water. When European colonists arrived in America, they brought apple seeds and seedlings. John Chapman, better known as Johnny Appleseed, became legendary for planting apple nurseries across the American frontier in the early 1800s. Most of his trees produced apples suited primarily for hard cider rather than fresh eating, since apples grown from seed rarely resemble their parent. Today, there are over 7,000 named apple varieties, from tart Granny Smiths to sweet Fuji's, from crisp Honeycrisps to aromatic Cox's Orange Pippins. Each variety is maintained through grafting, attaching a cutting from a desired tree onto hardy rootstock, ensuring that the apple you eat today tastes the same as the one someone enjoyed 100 years ago. Ice cream was once so rare and expensive that only royalty could afford it. The difficulty was ice. Before refrigeration, ice had to be cut from frozen lakes and rivers in winter, then stored in insulated underground ice houses packed with straw and sawdust, and even then, it melted steadily through the warmer months. Having ice in summer was a display of wealth and engineering. The earliest frozen desserts likely originated in ancient China, where a mixture of milk, rice, and snow was consumed around 200 BCE. The technique spread slowly westward. By the 17th century, European royalty enjoyed elaborate frozen desserts at banquets, made by nesting a container of sweetened cream inside a larger container of ice and salt, then churning by hand until it froze. The process was laborious, expensive, and closely guarded. In America, ice cream remained a luxury until the 19th century, when technological advances made ice more available and churning machines more efficient. The invention of mechanical refrigeration in the late 1800s transformed everything. By the early 20th century, ice cream was accessible to the masses. The cone was popularized at the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair. Soft serve was developed in the 1930s. Today, freezers make ice cream available in every flavor imaginable in every season. But each scoop still carries a faint echo of its origins. When frozen cream was a marvel, served only at the tables of kings. Oysters were once the cheapest food available, so plentiful they were considered fit only for the poor. In cities like New York and London in the 18th and 19th centuries, oyster beds stretched for miles along the coast. Street vendors sold them from carts for pennies. They were so abundant that oyster shells were used as paving material, mixed into mortar for buildings, and burned into lime for construction. Workers ate oysters for lunch because they were cheaper than bread. Then, industrialization happened. Pollution poisoned coastal waters. Overharvesting stripped the beds bare. By the early 20th century, oyster populations had crashed. What was once the cheapest protein available became scarce, and scarcity transformed oysters into a luxury. served on ice at upscale restaurants, paired with champagne and priced accordingly. The reversal is almost complete. A food that fed the working poor now carries an air of sophistication. Today, oyster farming helps meet demand while protecting wild populations. Each oyster filters up to 50 gallons of water per day, making oyster reefs important for coastal ecosystems. Restoration projects are reintroducing oysters to damaged harbours, hoping to revive both populations and water quality. The humble oyster, once so common it was barely noticed, now represents both luxury and environmental hope. In 18th century Europe, a single pineapple could cost the equivalent of several thousand modern pounds. Native to South America, pineapples require tropical conditions and do not survive long journeys. Bringing a fresh pineapple to a European table required fast ships and extraordinary care. The wealthy did not even eat their pineapples immediately. Instead, they displayed them at dinner parties as centerpieces, proof of the host's wealth and global connections. Guests admired the exotic fruit the way they might admire a painting. The same pineapple might be displayed at multiple events over several days before it finally began to rot and was eaten, or, in some cases, rented out to other families for their own gatherings. This obsession left its mark on architecture and design. Pineapples were carved into gateposts, woven into textiles, and sculpted atop buildings. The pineapple became a symbol of hospitality and welcome, a meaning it retains today, though few people know why. The development of steamships and later refrigeration made pineapples accessible. Hawaii became a major producer in the late 19th century. Canning made pineapple affordable worldwide. Today, a pineapple costs next to nothing in most supermarkets. But its sweet tropical taste still carries a faint trace of its extravagant past. When owning one meant you were richer than your neighbors. Maple syrup requires extraordinary patience. It takes roughly 40 gallons of sap to produce a single gallon of syrup. A single sugar maple produces only about 10 gallons of sap per season, and the sap contains just 2 to 4% sugar. The rest is water that must be slowly boiled away over hours. Indigenous peoples of northeastern North America discovered the process long before European contact, making V-shaped slashes in tree bark, inserting reeds to channel sap into birch bark containers, and concentrating it by dropping hot stones into the liquid. European settlers adopted and refined the technique. The sap flows only during a narrow window in late winter and early spring, when daytime temperatures rise above freezing but nights remain cold. These temperature swings create pressure changes inside the tree that push sap outward. If it stays too warm or too cold, the flow stops. The season might last only a few weeks. The boiling itself fills the air with sweet, woody fragrance. Sugar houses steaming in the cold morning air are one of the defining images of New England spring. Different grades of maple syrup exist, from light golden with delicate flavor to dark amber with robust intensity. The color depends on when in the season the sap was collected. Later sap produces darker syrup. Pure maple syrup contains minerals and antioxidants absent from processed corn syrup. Each bottle represents weeks of weather, hours of patient boiling, and a partnership between humans and trees that stretches back centuries. Pasteur comes in over 300 shapes, and none of them are arbitrary. Each was designed to pair with specific sauces, maximizing flavor and texture in ways that reflect centuries of Italian culinary engineering. Long, thin pasta-like spaghetti works best with light oil-based or simple tomato sauces that can coat the strands evenly without overwhelming them. Tubular pasta like penne and rigatoni features ridges and hollow centers that trap chunkier sauces. Meat ragouts, vegetable sauces, and hearty preparations nestle into the ridges and fill the tubes, ensuring every bite contains both pasta and sauce. Small shapes like orzo and ditalini are designed for soups, where they can be spooned easily with broth. Wide, flat pasta like pappardelle and lasagna sheets pair with rich, meaty sauces that can sit atop the broad surface. Delicate filled pasta like ravioli and tortellini already contain rich ingredients inside, so they are served with simple butter and sage or light broth that will not compete with the filling. The diversity is not decorative. It is functional. Each curve, ridge, tube, and twist exists to solve a specific problem of sauce delivery. Italian grandmothers will tell you with absolute certainty that the wrong shape with the wrong sauce is not just a preference issue. It is an error. The relationship between pasta and sauce is a marriage, and the shape is what makes it work. Black pepper was once worth more than gold by weight. Native to the Malabar coast of India, pepper was treasured throughout the ancient world for flavoring food, preserving meat, and its supposed medicinal properties. The end. Romans valued it so highly they kept pepper reserves in their treasury alongside gold and silver. During the fall of Rome, Alaric the Visigoth demanded 3,000 pounds of pepper as part of the city's ransom, a sum that demonstrates how precious this spice was considered. In medieval Europe, pepper could be used as currency. The phrase peppercorn rent, still used in legal language today, originated from the practice of paying debts in pepper. Specific regulations governed its exchange rate. A man's wealth could be measured by his pepper stores. The European desire to access pepper directly, bypassing the Arab and Venetian merchants who controlled the trade and charged enormous markups, was one of the primary motivations for the age of exploration. Vasco da Gama's voyage around Africa to India in 1498 was driven largely by the search for a sea route to obtain pepper. Today, pepper is the most traded spice in the world and costs almost nothing. Each grind of the pepper mill echoes centuries when this simple dried berry was precious enough to ransom a city. Ketchup started its life as a fermented fish sauce, and it was nothing like the sweet, red condiment we know today. The word likely derives from the Chinese ketchup, a fermented sauce made from fish entrails. British sailors encountered similar sauces in Southeast Asia and brought the concept back to Europe, where cooks experimented with their own versions. Early European ketchups were thin, salty, pungent sauces made from anchovies, mushrooms, walnuts, or oysters, anything but tomatoes. Mushroom ketchup was particularly popular in 18th century England and is still made today. Tomato ketchup emerged in America in the early 19th century as tomatoes finally gained acceptance as food. These early versions were thinner, less sweet, and spoiled quickly. It was Henry J. Heinz who transformed ketchup in the late 1800s, developing a thick, sweet, shelf-stable version using ripe tomatoes, vinegar, sugar, and spices. The distinctive narrow-necked bottle became iconic. Heinz advertised his product as pure and wholesome at a time when many foods contained dubious additives. The brand became so dominant that Heinz ketchup became essentially synonymous with ketchup itself. From fermented fish sauce to tomato condiment to global empire, ketchup's journey across cultures and centuries is one of the stranger transformations in food history. Figs have one of the most remarkable reproductive partnerships in the natural world. What we think of as the fruit is actually a hollow receptacle with tiny flowers blooming inside. An inverted bouquet, sealed from the world. These flowers cannot pollinate themselves. They rely entirely on a specific species of fig wasp. Each fig species has its own dedicated wasp, and neither can survive without the other. The female wasp enters the fig through a tiny opening so narrow she loses her wings in the process. Inside, she lays her eggs and pollinates the flowers simultaneously. She dies inside the fig. Her offspring develop mate within the sealed chamber, and the next generation of females emerges carrying pollen to find new figs and repeat the cycle. The males born without wings never leave. By the time you eat a fig, the wasp's remains have been completely broken down by enzymes, absorbed into the fruit as protein. Nothing remains intact. Figs have been cultivated for at least 11,000 years, making them one of the earliest agricultural crops, possibly predating grain cultivation. Dried figs sustained travelers on long journeys. Fresh figs are so delicate they barely survive transport, which is why the best figs are always eaten close to where they grow. Each one represents a partnership millions of years in the making. Two species so interdependent they function as a single organism. Auguste Escoffier did not invent French cooking, but he invented the modern restaurant kitchen. In the late 19th century, kitchens were chaotic, disorganized, and often brutally inefficient. Escoffier, working at some of the grandest hotels in Europe, reimagined the entire system. He created the Brigade de Cuisine, a military-style hierarchy that divided the kitchen into specialized stations, each with a clearly defined role. The saucier made sauces. The poissonnier handled fish. The rôtisseur managed roasting. The pâtissier created desserts. At the top stood the chef de cuisine, coordinating everything. This system brought order to chaos and is still used in professional kitchens worldwide. Escoffier also simplified and codified French haute cuisine, stripping away the excessive ornamentation of the previous era and focusing on clean, elegant flavors. He organized thousands of recipes into a systematic framework. He insisted on discipline, cleanliness, and professionalism at a time when cooks were often treated as servants. He banned swearing and drinking in his kitchens. He was among the first to make cooking respectable as a career. His book, Le Guide Culinaire, published in 1903, remains a reference text for chefs today. Every time you eat in a well-run restaurant kitchen, where orders are called, stations are manned, and plates emerge with precision, you are experiencing the system one man designed over a century ago. The idea that Marco Polo brought pasta from China to Italy is almost certainly a myth. But the truth is more interesting. Pasta-like foods developed independently in multiple cultures. The Chinese were making noodles from millet flour at least 4,000 years ago. Archaeologists discovered a sealed bowl of perfectly preserved noodles at the Lajia site in northwestern China, dating to approximately 2000 BCE. Italians were making forms of pasta long before Marco Polo's travels in the 13th century. Arab traders likely introduced dried pasta to Sicily during their rule of the island in the 9th and 10th centuries. Durum wheat pasta that could be dried and stored for months, making it ideal for trade and long sea voyages. The Marco Polo myth appeared in a 1929 American magazine article and took hold because it made for a good story. In reality, pasta evolved through multiple pathways. Chinese noodle traditions, Arab dried pasta technology, and Italian culinary innovation all contributed to the global noodle landscape we know today. The 4,000-year-old bowl from Lajia is a reminder that the impulse to mix grain and water into strands is older than any single cuisine, and that good ideas, in food as in everything else, tend to arise wherever the conditions are right. Jean-Antelme Brillat-Savarin never ran a restaurant and never trained as a chef. Yet he may have done more to shape how we think about food than any cook who ever lived. Born in 1755 in the French town of Belley, Brillat-Savarin was a lawyer, politician, and devoted amateur of the table. In 1825, he published The Physiology of Taste, a book that treated eating not as mere sustenance but as an art, a science, and a philosophy. He wrote about the chemistry of flavor, the psychology of appetite, and the social rituals of dining with an elegance and wit that made the book an immediate sensation. His most famous line, "Tell me what you eat, and I will tell you what you are," has been paraphrased into the now universal, "You are what you eat." Brillat-Savarin argued that gastronomy was a legitimate field of study, deserving the same intellectual seriousness as music, literature, or natural history. He was among the first to describe the sensory experience of eating in precise, almost scientific detail. How flavors develop on the palate, how texture affects pleasure, how anticipation heightens enjoyment. He died just 2 months after his book was published, never knowing the influence it would have. Today, a famous French cheese bears his name. Food writing as a genre, from restaurant reviews to cookbooks to food memoirs, owes its existence in large part to a French lawyer who believed that eating well was one of life's great intellectual pleasures. Jiro Ono has been making sushi for more than 70 years, and he is still not satisfied. His tiny 10-seat restaurant, Sukiyabashi Jiro, sits in a Tokyo subway station. There is no menu, there is no decor to speak of. There are no appetizers or desserts. There is only sushi, 20 pieces, served one at a time, each one the result of decades of refinement. Jiro, born in 1925, began his apprenticeship at the age of 7. His approach to sushi is one of relentless, patient perfectionism. Rice is seasoned to a precise temperature. Fish is aged for exactly the right number of days. Octopus is massaged for 45 minutes to achieve the correct texture. Apprentices spend years learning to make the egg omelette, and only the egg omelette, before they are permitted to touch fish. The restaurant was awarded 3 Michelin stars, the highest rating possible, and Jiro was declared a living national treasure by the Japanese government. His philosophy, Shokunin Kishitsu, the artisan spirit, holds that mastery comes not from innovation, but from repeating the same task thousands of times, finding infinitesimal improvements with each repetition. His story, captured in the documentary Jiro Dreams of Sushi, resonated worldwide because it speaks to something universal: the beauty of dedicating a life to doing one thing, as well as it can possibly be done. The Ethiopian coffee ceremony is one of the oldest and most beautiful food rituals still practiced today. In Ethiopian culture, coffee is not merely a drink. It is a social institution, a spiritual practice, and an expression of hospitality that can last 2 to 3 hours. The ceremony begins with the roasting of green coffee beans in a flat pan over an open flame. The host wafts the fragrant smoke toward guests so they can appreciate the aroma, a gesture of welcome. The roasted beans are then ground by hand using a wooden mortar and pestle and brewed in a jabina, a traditional clay pot with a round base and long, narrow neck. The coffee is poured from height in a single stream into small, handleless cups, served alongside popcorn or roasted barley. 3 rounds are served. The first, called abol, is the strongest. The second, toner, uses the same grounds and is milder. The third, baraka, meaning blessing, is the gentlest. Each round carries social significance, and leaving before the third is considered impolite. The ceremony is where news is shared, disputes are settled, friendships are deepened, and community bonds are strengthened. It is conducted primarily by women and carries deep cultural meaning. Ethiopia, where coffee originated, still treats it not as a commodity, but as a communal ritual. A reminder that the world's most popular stimulant began as an invitation to slow down, sit together, and connect. Kimchi is not just a food, it is the soul of Korean cuisine, a national identity preserved in fermented cabbage. Every autumn, Korean families gather for kimjang, the communal preparation of kimchi for the winter months. Cabbages are salted, rinsed, and packed with a paste of gochugaru chili flakes, garlic, ginger, fish sauce, and other ingredients, then sealed in earthenware jars traditionally buried in the ground to ferment slowly through the cold months. The practice is so culturally significant that UNESCO recognized kimjang as an intangible cultural heritage of humanity in 2013. There are over 200 varieties of kimchi made from radish, cucumber, scallion, and many other vegetables, not just cabbage. Each family has its own recipe passed down through generations, and Koreans often say you can taste a family's history in their kimchi. The fermentation produces lactic acid bacteria, probiotics that support digestive health, along with the complex, pungent, sour, spicy flavor profile that makes kimchi unlike anything else. It accompanies virtually every Korean meal, from breakfast to dinner, and appears in soups, stews, pancakes, and fried rice. During the Korean War, the government considered kimchi so essential to morale that it invested in developing shelf-stable military kimchi. For Koreans, kimchi is not a side dish. It is identity, family, and tradition, fermented into every bite. Street food feeds more people on Earth than restaurants ever will. In cities across Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Middle East, millions of people eat their primary meals from vendors operating from carts, stalls, and open-air kitchens. Bangkok alone has an estimated 400,000 street food vendors. Mexico City's taco stands are a cornerstone of daily life. Lagos, Istanbul, Mumbai, Marrakesh, each has a street food culture as complex and refined as any restaurant tradition. Street food is not a lesser form of cooking. It is often the purest expression of a cuisine, dishes stripped down to their essential elements, prepared by specialists who have made the same thing thousands of times. A Bangkok vendor who has grilled satay for 30 years has likely perfected that single dish to a degree that most restaurant chefs never achieve. Street food is democratic. It costs almost nothing. It serves everyone, laborers, students, business people, tourists, from the same pot. The flavors are intense, the portions generous, the experience communal. Eating from a plastic stool on a busy pavement, surrounded by the sounds and smells of a living city, is one of the great pleasures of being alive. Street food is also fragile. Gentrification, regulation, and changing urban landscapes threaten traditions that have fed cities for generations. When a street food vendor closes, a piece of culinary heritage disappears, often irreplaceably. In 2012, a powerful earthquake struck the Emilia-Romagna region of northern Italy and damaged warehouses storing over 300,000 wheels of Parmigiano Reggiano cheese, each one aged for years and worth hundreds of euros. The total damage was estimated at over 200 million euros. Massimo Bottura, the chef of Osteria Francescana in nearby Modena, a restaurant that would later be named the best in the world, sprang into action. He created a recipe called cacio e pepe with Parmigiano Reggiano risotto, designed specifically to use the damaged wheels that could no longer be sold as whole cheeses, but were still perfectly good to eat. He published the recipe and urged chefs around the world to buy the damaged cheese and cook with it. The campaign worked. Chefs, restaurants, and home cooks purchased thousands of wheels, turning potential waste into meals. The effort saved countless producers from financial ruin. Bottura went on to found Food for Soul, a network of community kitchens that use surplus food and the labor of top chefs to feed people in need. proving that fine dining and food rescue are not contradictions, but natural partners. His philosophy is simple: food is too important to waste, and a cracked wheel of cheese handled with care and creativity can feed a community. The French paradox puzzled scientists for decades. The French eat butter, cream, cheese, foie gras, and drink wine regularly, a diet high in saturated fat by conventional standards. Yet their rates of heart disease have historically been lower than those in many countries with ostensibly healthier diets. The term French paradox was coined in 1992, and it sparked intense scientific debate. Several explanations have been proposed. The role of red wine, which contains resveratrol and other antioxidants, received the most attention, but the evidence remains mixed. More compelling may be the French approach to eating itself. Portions are smaller, meals are slower, more social, and more structured, eaten at a table rather than on the go. Snacking between meals is less common. The pleasure of food is central, which paradoxically may lead to eating less overall, because satisfaction comes from quality and ritual rather than quantity. The French also walk more, eat more vegetables and whole foods, and consume less processed food and sugar than many comparable nations. The paradox may not be a paradox at all. It may simply be that a culture that treats food as a pleasure to be savoured rather than a problem to be managed ends up healthier because of it. The lesson is not that butter is a health food. It is that how you eat may matter as much as what you eat. Gandhi's Salt March changed a nation, and it began with something so ordinary it seems impossible. In 1930, British India maintained a monopoly on salt production, taxing it heavily and making it illegal for Indians to collect or sell their own salt. This affected everyone, particularly the poor, who could barely afford the taxed salt essential to their survival in the tropical heat. Mahatma Gandhi chose salt as the symbol of resistance precisely because of its universality. Everyone needed salt. Everyone understood the injustice. On March 12th, Gandhi and 78 followers set out from his ashram on a 240-mile walk to the coastal town of Dandi. They walked for 24 days. By the time they reached the sea, thousands had joined the march. On April 6th, Gandhi bent down, picked up a handful of natural salt from the shore, and broke British law. The act was simple, symbolic, and devastating. It demonstrated that unjust laws could be defied peacefully, that ordinary substances could become instruments of liberation, and that the power of an empire could be challenged by a man picking up salt from a beach. The Salt March galvanized the Indian independence movement. 60,000 people were arrested in the protests that followed. The British monopoly on salt eventually collapsed. Salt, the most basic seasoning, the most ancient preservative, became a symbol of freedom. Nicolas Appert was a French confectioner who, without understanding the science behind what he was doing, invented a technology that would feed armies, transform global trade, and change how humanity stores food forever. In the early 1800s, Napoleon Bonaparte offered a prize of 12,000 francs to anyone who could develop a reliable method of preserving food for his troops. Armies marched on their stomachs, and spoiled provisions were costing France dearly. Appert experimented for over a decade and discovered that food sealed in airtight glass jars and heated in boiling water would remain edible for months or years. He published his method in 1810 and won Napoleon's prize. He did not know why it worked. The germ theory of disease had not yet been established, but he knew that it did. Shortly after, a British merchant named Peter Durand patented the idea of using tin-plated iron cans instead of fragile glass jars, and the canning industry was born. Within decades, canned food was feeding soldiers, sailors, explorers, and eventually ordinary households across the world. Tinned meat sustained armies through the Crimean War and the American Civil War. Canned goods opened up polar exploration. Today, canning remains one of the most reliable food preservation methods on Earth, all because a confectioner boiled jars without knowing about bacteria. Louis Pasteur did not set out to revolutionize the food industry. He was trying to save the French wine business. In the 1860s, French winemakers were desperate. Their wines were spoiling at alarming rates, turning sour or developing off flavors that made them unsellable. They turned to Pasteur, already famous for his work on fermentation. Pasteur discovered that the spoilage was caused by unwanted microorganisms, bacteria that contaminated the wine after fermentation. He demonstrated that briefly heating the wine to a specific temperature killed the harmful bacteria without significantly affecting the flavor. This process, soon called pasteurization, was quickly applied to other perishable liquids. Milk pasteurization, introduced later, dramatically reduced the spread of tuberculosis, typhoid, and other diseases transmitted through raw milk, saving countless lives. Before pasteurization, milk was one of the most dangerous foods a person could consume, particularly for children. The process was simple, cheap, and effective. Today, pasteurization is applied to milk, juice, beer, and many other products. It is one of the most significant public health innovations in history. Pasteur did not invent it to save lives. He invented it to save wine. The lives saved were a consequence of understanding for the first time that invisible organisms in our food could make us ill, and that a little heat could stop them. George Washington Carver did not invent peanut butter. That is a common misconception. But what he did was arguably more important. In the early 20th century, the American South was in agricultural crisis. Decades of continuous cotton cultivation had stripped the soil of nutrients. Farmers were trapped in a cycle of declining yields and deepening poverty. Carver, a black scientist born into slavery who became a professor at Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, dedicated his career to finding alternatives. He championed the peanut, a legume that, unlike cotton, returns nitrogen to depleted soil, and researched over 300 uses for it, from food products to industrial applications like dyes, plastics, and fuel. His work convinced Southern farmers to rotate cotton with peanuts and sweet potatoes, restoring soil fertility and providing new sources of income. Carver became one of the most famous scientists in America, consulted by presidents and industrialists. He never patented most of his discoveries, believing that food was a gift from God and should be shared freely. His legacy is not a single invention, but a philosophy that science should serve the poor, that the Earth's resources should be used wisely, and that a humble plant treated with intelligence and respect can transform a region's fortunes. Mushrooms are neither plant nor animal. They belong to their own kingdom entirely. For centuries, people classified them as plants because they grow from the ground and do not move. But mushrooms do not photosynthesize. They cannot produce their own food from sunlight. Instead, they are the fruiting bodies of fungi, organisms that digest food externally, secreting enzymes to break down organic matter and absorbing the nutrients. What we call a mushroom is just the reproductive structure. The main body is a network of thread-like filaments called mycelium, which spreads through soil or wood, sometimes for miles. Some mycelial networks are among the largest organisms on Earth. When conditions are right, the mycelium produces mushrooms that release billions of spores into the air. Humans have cultivated mushrooms for at least 2,000 years. Some are prized for flavor, morels, chanterelles, porcini. Some are used medicinally. Some are lethally poisonous, requiring expert knowledge to distinguish from their edible lookalikes. When you add mushrooms to a dish, you are eating something from a kingdom of life entirely separate from everything else on your plate. Coconuts are perfectly designed for ocean travel. Their hard shell protects the seed. The fibrous husk provides buoyancy. A coconut can float for months on ocean currents and still germinate when it washes ashore. This natural dispersal spread coconut palms across tropical coastlines long before humans carried them further. The coconut palm is called the tree of life because nearly every part has a use. The water is sterile and drinkable. The flesh provides food. The husk makes rope and mats. The shell becomes bowls. The leaves are woven into thatch, and the sap can be tapped for sugar or fermented into wine. For island communities surrounded by ocean, the coconut palm provides comprehensive sustenance. Thai curries swim in coconut milk. Indonesian dishes use coconut cream for richness. Pacific island cultures have depended on coconuts for thousands of years. Carrots were not always orange. For most of history, they were purple, white, yellow, or red. First domesticated in Persia over 1,000 years ago, early carrots were smaller, more bitter, and primarily purple. The orange carrot emerged in the 17th century Netherlands, where farmers selectively bred yellow varieties for a brighter colour and sweeter taste. Some stories claim this was done to honour the Dutch royal house of Orange, though the connection is debated. Regardless, the orange carrot proved superior in flavour and nutrition. Its colour comes from beta-carotene, which the body converts to vitamin A. As Dutch trade expanded, orange carrots spread worldwide and other varieties fell from cultivation. Recently, purple, yellow, and white carrots have made a comeback at farmers' markets. A reminder that the familiar orange version is a relatively modern invention. A sourdough starter can live for centuries. It is nothing more than flour and water colonized by wild yeast and bacteria from the environment. Yet, with regular feeding, it becomes a stable, self-sustaining ecosystem that produces bread with a distinctive tang and chewy texture. Some bakers maintain starters that are decades or even generations old. Boudin Bakery in San Francisco has kept the same mother dough alive since 1849. It survived the 1906 earthquake when the baker's wife rescued it from their burning home. Each starter develops a unique microbial profile shaped by its environment, the flour used, and the hands that tend it. Bakers claim their region's starter produces bread that cannot be replicated elsewhere. Whether that is science or folklore, sourdough starters represent a living tradition. Microscopic organisms nurtured by human hands to create daily bread. Lemons originated in Southeast Asia, likely in the region spanning northeastern India to southern China, and are thought to be a hybrid between a citron and a bitter orange. Arab traders brought them westward, planting them throughout the Middle East and North Africa. They reached southern Italy by the time of ancient Rome, but remained rare and expensive for centuries. Lemons proved vital for one of history's deadliest maritime problems: scurvy. This disease, caused by vitamin C deficiency, killed more sailors than storms, combat, and all other diseases combined. In the 18th century, the British Royal Navy discovered that citrus fruits prevented scurvy, and they began provisioning ships with lemons and later limes, earning British sailors the nickname limeys. This simple dietary change transformed naval warfare and exploration, allowing longer voyages and healthier crews. Strawberries are not actually berries. Botanically, true berries, like blueberries, grapes, and surprisingly, tomatoes, develop from a single ovary. Strawberries develop from the flower's receptacle, not the ovary. Those tiny specks on the outside are the actual fruits, each containing a single seed. The the sweet red flesh is just the enlarged receptacle. Botanists classify them as aggregate accessory fruits. Wild strawberries have been eaten for thousands of years. Small, intensely flavored fruits found across Europe, Asia, and the Americas. The large garden strawberry we know today is a relatively recent creation, an 18th century hybrid between a North American species and a Chilean species, first cultivated in France. California now produces the majority of American strawberries, though locally grown berries picked fully ripe still taste notably better than those bred for shipping. Cashews grow outside their fruit in one of the strangest arrangements in the plant kingdom. The cashew nut, technically a seed, hangs beneath a pear-shaped structure called a cashew apple. The apple is edible, juicy, and sweet, but bruises so easily it is rarely seen outside cashew-growing regions. Most of the world only knows the nut. Processing cashews is dangerous. The shell contains urushiol, the same toxic oil found in poison ivy, causing severe skin reactions on contact. Workers must roast or steam the shells to neutralize the toxin before cracking them open by hand. Poor working conditions in some processing regions have raised serious ethical concerns about the industry. Once freed from their toxic armor, cashews are among the most versatile nuts. Eaten roasted, ground into butter, or blended into vegan cream sauces. Quinoa was so important to the Inca civilization that they called it the mother grain. For thousands of years, Andean peoples cultivated it at altitudes where almost nothing else would grow. The plant tolerates poor soil, frost, drought, and thin mountain air. The Inca emperor traditionally planted the first seeds of each season using golden tools. Spanish conquistadors, attempting to suppress indigenous culture, discouraged quinoa cultivation in favor of European grains, and it nearly disappeared, maintained only by remote mountain communities. Quinoa's modern popularity stems from its extraordinary nutritional profile. It is a complete protein containing all 9 essential amino acids, rare for a plant food. It is high in fiber, naturally gluten-free, and rich in minerals. The ancient Inca's sacred crop is now grown globally, its seeds carrying forward a tradition thousands of years old. Traditional soy sauce is fermented for months or even years. Soybeans and wheat are steamed, mixed with aspergillus mold cultures to create koji, then combined with salt water and transferred to fermentation vessels. Over months, enzymes break down proteins and starches into amino acids and sugars, producing the deep, complex savoriness soy sauce is known for. Some premium varieties age for 3 to 5 years. The difference between traditionally brewed soy sauce and the industrial version, made through chemical hydrolysis in hours, is like the difference between aged wine and grape juice. Chinese and Japanese soy sauces differ in method and character. Dark soy sauce is thicker and sweeter. Light soy sauce is saltier and thinner. Tamari uses little or no wheat. Each drop of the real thing represents patient transformation. Simple ingredients becoming extraordinary through time. Pistachios are called the smiling nut in Persian and the happy nut in Chinese, because their shells split open naturally when ripe, as if grinning. This split occurs as the growing kernel expands and breaks through the shell. Native to the Middle East and Central Asia, pistachios have been cultivated for at least 3,000 years. According to legend, the Queen of Sheba decreed them exclusively royal food. They traveled the Silk Road to the Mediterranean and arrived in America in the 1880s. California now produces most of the country's crop. The distinctive green color comes from chlorophyll, and Iranian pistachios tend to be greener than Californian ones. Each smiling shell opens to reveal a nut that has traveled from ancient Persia to snack bowls worldwide. When you cut an onion, it fights back. Slicing through onion cells releases an enzyme that converts amino acid sulfoxides into syn-propanethyl S-oxide, a volatile gas that drifts upward and irritates the nerve endings in your eyes. Your eyes respond by producing tears to flush out the irritant. The onion evolved this defense mechanism to discourage animals from eating it. Chilling onions before cutting slows the enzymatic reaction. Cutting under running water washes the gas away. Using a sharp knife reduces cell damage and releases less of the compound. Despite this chemical warfare, onions are one of the most essential ingredients in cooking worldwide. The aromatic foundation of French mirepoix, Italian sofrito, and Cajun Holy Trinity. Their bite mellows completely with heat, becoming sweet, rich, and deeply savory. Lobster was once considered fit only for prisoners, servants, and the destitute. In colonial New England, lobsters were so abundant, they washed ashore in piles 2 feet deep. Colonists used them as fertilizer and fish bait. Servants negotiated contracts stipulating they would not be fed lobster more than 3 times per week. Prisoners ate it so often that some argued it constituted cruel and unusual punishment. The transformation began with the railways. By the mid-19th century, canned lobster was shipped inland as a cheap protein source. People who had never seen the live animal found the meat delicious. Demand grew. Prices rose. By the 20th century, lobster had completed its journey from poverty food to luxury symbol, served with drawn butter at prices that would have astonished the colonists who once threw it away. Popcorn is ancient, at least 5,600 years old. Archaeological evidence from New Mexico shows Native Americans were popping corn millennia before European contact. They heated kernels on hot stones, in heated sand, or directly over fire. Popcorn is a specific corn variety with a hard shell and starchy center. When heated, moisture inside turns to steam, pressure builds, and the hull ruptures. The starch explodes outward into the white puff we eat. Not all corn pops. Only varieties cultivated specifically for this trait work. The marriage of popcorn and cinema happened during the Great Depression, when the snack was cheap enough for struggling theatres to profit from. Theatre owners initially resisted, considering it too messy. Now the association is inseparable. Peanuts are not nuts. They are legumes, related to beans and lentils. Unlike tree nuts that grow on branches, peanuts develop underground. After the plant flowers above the soil, the flower stalk grows downward and pushes into the earth, where the pods form in darkness. This unusual characteristic is called geocarpy. Peanuts originated in South America, traveled to Africa via Portuguese traders, and arrived in North America through the slave trade. They were initially considered livestock feed. George Washington Carver's research transformed their reputation. Peanut butter, invented in the late 1800s, became an American staple, an affordable protein source that proved especially important during wartime rationing. Today, Americans consume over 1.5 billion pounds of peanut butter annually. Rhubarb is a vegetable that everyone treats as a fruit, and its leaves can kill you. The stalks are tart, vivid pink, and delicious when cooked with enough sugar. The leaves contain high levels of oxalic acid and other toxic compounds that can cause serious illness. The plant originated in Asia, where its roots were used medicinally for thousands of years. Only in the 18th century, once sugar became affordable, did Europeans begin eating the stalks. Rhubarb thrives in cold climates where many fruits struggle, making it one of the first harvests of spring in northern regions. Strawberry rhubarb pie. The sweetness of one balancing the tartness of the other became a classic combination. Just remember, stalks only. almonds and peaches are close botanical relatives, both members of the genus Prunus. Crack open a peach pit and you will find an almond-shaped seed inside that looks remarkably familiar. Peach trees were bred for their flesh. Almond trees were bred for their seeds. Both produce beautiful blossoms in spring. California's Central Valley, where 80% of the world's almonds are grown, becomes a landscape of white and pink flowers each February. These blossoms must be pollinated by honeybees. Beekeepers truck millions of hives to the orchards for this critical period, making it one of the largest managed pollination events on Earth. Wild almonds contain dangerous levels of cyanide. Through careful breeding over millennia, farmers developed sweet varieties safe to eat raw. Watermelons are 92% water, and they originated in one of the driest places on Earth. Wild watermelons grew in the Kalahari Desert of southern Africa, where they provided precious moisture to animals and humans in an arid landscape. These ancestors were smaller and more bitter than modern varieties, but their water content was their primary value. Ancient Egyptians cultivated watermelons over 4,000 years ago, placing them in tombs to nourish the deceased. Every part is edible. The rind can be pickled or stir-fried, and the seeds are roasted as snacks in many cultures. On a hot day, biting into cold watermelon is pure summer, mostly water, but carrying with it the taste of sun and a connection to ancient deserts where water was life itself. The fruit came before the color. Before oranges became widely known in English-speaking countries, there was no word for orange as a color. People described orange things as yellow-red or red-yellow. The word entered English from the Spanish naranja, derived ultimately from Sanskrit. Oranges originated in Southeast Asia and were carried westward by Arab traders. The Moors introduced them to Spain. Portuguese explorers found sweet oranges in China and brought them to Europe. European nobles built elaborate orangeries, special greenhouses to protect citrus trees through winter, as expensive status symbols. The color was eventually named after the fruit, not the other way around. Red-haired people were called red-headed before the word orange existed for the color, a usage that persists to this day. Brussels sprouts are a surprisingly modern vegetable, developed in Belgium in the 16th or 17th century. They had a terrible reputation for decades, considered bitter and sulfurous, especially when boiled to mush. In the 1990s, Dutch scientists bred new varieties with lower levels of sinigrin, the compound responsible for bitterness. Combined with better cooking techniques, roasting rather than boiling, Brussels sprouts underwent a complete transformation. Roasted until caramelized with crispy edges, they are sweet, nutty, and genuinely addictive. They grow on tall stalks with sprouts spiraling up the stem and actually taste sweeter after a frost, as the plant converts starches to sugars in cold temperatures. Whether you love or hate them may depend entirely on which version you have tried. Eggplants earned their English name from white varieties that looked like eggs hanging from the plant. These smaller, egg-shaped types were more common in Europe when the vegetable first arrived from Asia, the large purple. Eggplants we know today came later, but the name stuck. In most of the world, the vegetable is called aubergine, from the Arabic al-badinjan. It originated in India, where it has been cultivated for thousands of years. Asian varieties tend to be long and slender with thinner skin. Italian eggplants are round, perfect for Parmigiana. Middle Eastern cooking transforms them into smoky baba ganoush. The spongy flesh absorbs oil readily, which is why salting before cooking, to draw out moisture, is essential for good results. Asparagus makes some people's urine smell distinctive within 15 to 30 minutes of eating it. The compound responsible, asparagusic acid, breaks down during digestion into volatile sulfur chemicals that are excreted almost immediately. The fascinating part is that not everyone can detect the smell. Genetic variations determine both whether you produce the odorous compounds and whether your nose can detect them. Asparagus has been cultivated for over 2,000 years, prized by Greeks and Romans as a delicacy. The spears are young shoots. Left unharvested, they grow into tall, ferny plants. An established asparagus bed can produce for 15 to 30 years, sending up tender spears each spring. White asparagus, popular in Europe, is simply green asparagus grown under soil to prevent photosynthesis. Pomegranates have symbolized fertility, prosperity, and eternal life across nearly every major religion and culture for millennia. The fruit's multitude of seeds, encased in jewel-like crimson arils, made it a natural symbol of abundance. Ancient Persians believed they granted invincibility. Greeks associated them with Persephone, whose consumption of pomegranate seeds bound her to the underworld for part of each year, explaining the seasons. In Judaism, tradition holds they contain 613 seeds, corresponding to the commandments. In Islam, pomegranates are mentioned in the Quran as fruits of paradise. In Christianity, they represent resurrection. The fruit transcends borders and faiths, a universal symbol of life's richness. Grapes have been cultivated for at least 8,000 years, making them one of humanity's oldest crops. Archaeological evidence from the Caucasus region shows grape growing and winemaking dating to 6,000 BCE. The Greeks and Romans spread viticulture throughout their empires, planting vineyards wherever their influence reached. There are thousands of varieties. Wine grapes are smaller, sweeter, and thicker skinned. Table grapes are larger, crisper, and thinner skinned. Some are grown specifically for drying into raisins, a preservation method that sustained travelers and armies for centuries. The concept of terroir, how local soil, climate, and conditions affect flavor, has been recognized since antiquity. Whether eaten fresh, dried, pressed into juice, or fermented into wine, grapes represent celebration across cultures. Dark chocolate with 70% cacao or higher contains flavonoids, antioxidants that may support heart health, reduce inflammation, and improve blood flow. The higher the cacao percentage, the more flavonoids are present. Milk chocolate dilutes these compounds with sugar and milk solids. White chocolate contains no cacao solids at all, only cocoa butter, sugar, and milk. Artisan chocolate makers now produce single-origin bars that highlight cacao from specific regions, much like wine. Venezuelan cacao tastes different from Ecuadorian or Madagascan, each with unique flavor profiles shaped by soil, climate, and processing. The bitterness of dark chocolate comes from cacao's natural compounds. Learning to appreciate it is like developing a palate for wine. Complexity reveals itself slowly to those willing to pay attention. In 2005, archaeologists in northwestern China discovered a sealed bowl containing perfectly preserved noodles dating to approximately 2000 BCE, making them the oldest known noodles in the world. Found at the Lajia archaeological site, buried under 10 feet of sediment from an ancient earthquake and flood, the 4,000-year-old noodles were made from millet flour and were long, thin, and yellow. The discovery settled a long-running debate about whether noodles originated in China, Italy, or the Arab world. While pasta-like foods developed independently in multiple cultures, the Lajia noodles proved that the Chinese tradition was the oldest by a significant margin. Today, noodle cultures span the globe. Japanese ramen, Vietnamese po, Italian spaghetti, Korean japchae, Thai pad thai, each a branch of the same ancient impulse to transform grain and water into strands. Butter has been churned for at least 4,500 years. The earliest evidence comes from ancient Mesopotamia, but butter making likely predates recorded history, probably discovered when milk carried in animal skin bags was jostled enough to separate. In cooler climates, butter became a dietary staple. In warmer regions where it spoiled quickly, clarified butter, ghee, was developed, with the milk solids removed for longer preservation. Indian cuisine has used ghee for thousands of years. French cooking elevated butter to an art form, the foundation of sauces, pastries, and the entire tradition of patisserie. Irish butter, with its distinctive golden colour from grass-fed cows, is prized worldwide. The simple act of agitating cream until the fat globules merge is one of humanity's oldest food technologies. Yogurt sustained nomadic peoples across Central Asia for millennia before it reached the West. It was likely discovered by accident when milk stored in animal skin bags fermented naturally in warm conditions. The bacteria present transformed liquid milk into thick, tangy yogurt that lasted far longer without spoiling. Turkish, Persian, Indian, and Balkan cultures all developed rich traditions around it. The word yogurt comes from Turkish. In the early 20th century, Russian microbiologist Elie Mechnikov noticed that Bulgarian peasants who consumed large amounts of yogurt lived unusually long lives. He isolated Lactobacillus bulgaricus and promoted yogurt as a health food, sparking its popularity in Western Europe. Greek yogurt is strained for thickness. Icelandic skyer is even more concentrated. Each culture's version is distinct, proof that bacterial fermentation, guided by different hands, creates endlessly varied results. Bread takes different forms in every culture, and each one tells a story. Ethiopian injera, a spongy, sour flatbread made from fermented teff flour, serves as both plate and utensil, with stews spooned directly onto its surface. Indian naan is leavened and baked in a tandoor oven, charred and pillowy. Mexican tortillas, corn or wheat, are the foundation of an entire cuisine. The French baguette, with its crisp crust and airy interior, is protected by law. French regulations specify that a traditional baguette may contain only flour, water, salt, and yeast. Middle Eastern pita puffs into a pocket when baked. Japanese shokupan is impossibly soft and milky. Each bread reflects its climate, its grains, its culture's relationship with fire and flour. The world's most expensive foods exist at the intersection of rarity, labor, and desire. White truffles from Alba, Italy, can cost over €3,000 per kilogram, found only by trained dogs in specific forests during a few autumn weeks. Bluefin tuna has sold at Tokyo's Tsukiji market for over $3 million for a single fish. Wagyu beef from Japan, where cattle are raised on specific diets and sometimes massaged, can cost hundreds of pounds per kilogram. Kopi Luwak coffee, made from beans eaten and excreted by Asian palm civets, sells for enormous premiums, though ethical concerns about captive animals have tarnished its reputation. These foods are not just expensive, they are stories of scarcity, craftsmanship, and the human willingness to pay extraordinary prices for extraordinary flavor. Durian is called the king of fruits in Southeast Asia, and it is banned on public transport, in hotels and in airports across the region because of its smell. The aroma has been compared to rotting onions, turpentine, raw sewage, and gym socks. But to its devotees, and there are millions, the creamy flesh is indescribably delicious, with flavors described as custard, almond, vanilla, and caramel all at once. The contrast between smell and taste is one of food's great paradoxes. Durian is so popular in Southeast Asia that it has spawned an entire industry. Durian ice cream, durian pastries, durian pizza, durian-flavored everything. The fruit is massive, spiky, and heavy enough to cause injury when falling from trees. Signs warning of falling durians are common in growing regions. You either love it, or you cannot be in the same room. There is no middle ground. The phrase "open sesame" from the Arabian Nights may reference how sesame seed pods burst open when mature, scattering seeds in every direction. Sesame is one of the oldest oilseed crops, cultivated for over 3,000 years. Ancient Babylonians used sesame oil for cooking and lamp fuel. The seeds are tiny but nutrient-dense, rich in protein, healthy fats, calcium, and iron. Ground into tahini, they form the base of hummus. Toasted sesame oil adds distinctive flavor to Asian cooking. Black sesame seeds, unhulled and nuttier, are prized in Japanese and Chinese desserts. These small seeds have been opening their pods and spreading across the world for millennia. Peaches belong to the rose family, alongside apples, pears, cherries, plums, strawberries, and almonds. Look at their blossoms and the family resemblance is clear. 5 petals, arranged the same way. Peaches originated in China, where they have symbolized immortality for over 4,000 years. They spread along the Silk Road to Persia, where Europeans mistakenly believed they originated, hence the botanical name Prunus persica. Fresh peaches have a maddeningly narrow window of perfect ripeness. Too early, they are hard and bland. Too late, mealy and soft. Nectarines are simply peaches with a genetic mutation that produces smooth skin. Summer's gift, shared with roses. Mint has been cultivated for at least 2,000 years. Ancient Egyptians used it in embalming. Greeks rubbed it on tables before feasts. Romans used it in sauces and as a strewing herb to freshen rooms. The cooling sensation is not just perception. Menthol activates cold-sensitive receptors in the mouth, creating a genuine physiological response. There are dozens of species and hundreds of varieties. Peppermint is bold, spearmint is sweeter. Chocolate mint smells exactly like its name. Mint grows so aggressively that gardeners contain it in pots to prevent takeover. From Moroccan tea to mojitos to toothpaste, mint's refreshing quality never gets old. The yeast that makes bread rise and ferments beer is not a chemical, it is alive. Yeasts are single-celled fungi, invisible to the naked eye but present almost everywhere, floating through air, living on fruit skins, inhabiting plant surfaces. In bread, yeast consumes sugars and produces carbon dioxide and alcohol. The gas creates bubbles that make dough rise. The alcohol evaporates during baking. In beer and wine, the alcohol remains. Different strains produce different flavors. Baker's yeast is chosen for reliable rising, brewer's yeast for specific taste profiles. These invisible partners have been working alongside humans for thousands of years, transforming simple ingredients into risen bread and fermented drinks. Tea bags were invented entirely by accident. In 1908, New York tea merchant Thomas Sullivan sent samples to customers in small silk bags. He intended them to open the bags and brew loose. Instead, customers dunked the bags directly and loved the convenience. Sullivan switched from silk to gauze, then paper, and a global habit was born. Traditional tea lovers argue that bags constrain the leaves, preventing full flavor release. Premium pyramid bags address this somewhat, but the convenience won. During the Second World War, tea bags were included in soldiers' rations, spreading the habit worldwide. Whether brewed from bags or loose leaves, tea remains the world's most consumed beverage, after water. Sugar was called white gold in medieval Europe, affordable only to the wealthy, dispensed by apothecaries, almost like medicine. Sugarcane spread from New Guinea across Asia and the Middle East before reaching Europe. Colonial plantations in the Caribbean and Brazil transformed sugar from luxury to commodity. But at a horrific cost. These plantations relied on enslaved labor, making the sugar trade inseparable from one of history's darkest chapters. As production increased, prices fell. Tea and coffee, bitter drinks newly arrived in Europe, became palatable when sweetened, and consumption exploded. Today, sugar is so cheap and ubiquitous that overconsumption is a public health crisis. The substance once precious as gold is now a concern precisely because of its abundance. Nutmeg was worth waging war over. Native only to the tiny Banda Islands in Indonesia, nutmeg was so rare and expensive that the Dutch East India Company seized the islands by military force, committing atrocities against the native population to secure a monopoly. They destroyed nutmeg trees on islands they did not control and imposed the death penalty for smuggling seeds. Eventually, a French horticulturist managed to smuggle seedlings out, breaking the monopoly. Nutmeg is actually a 2-for-1 spice. The seed is ground into nutmeg powder, while the lacy covering called mace is dried and used separately. Today, it seasons everything from eggnog to bechamel, its violent history forgotten with each gentle grating. Apricots traveled the Silk Road from China, where they were cultivated over 4,000 years ago. Merchants carried seeds alongside silk and spices, and each region adapted the fruit to local conditions. Romans called them praecoqua, precocious, because apricot trees bloom early in spring, risking frost. Spanish missionaries brought them to California in the 18th century. Fresh apricots are delicate with a short season. Drying concentrates their sugars into chewy sweetness that lasts months. When you eat an apricot, you are tasting a fruit that traveled thousands of miles over centuries, carried by traders on camels and ships until it reached your table. Cauliflower comes in purple, orange, green, and the familiar white. All the same species as broccoli, cabbage, kale, and Brussels sprouts, descended from wild cabbage. Purple cauliflower contains anthocyanins. Orange is high in beta-carotene. The fractal-like green Romanesco variety is almost too beautiful to eat. White cauliflower requires blanching, tying outer leaves over the head to block sunlight. Or it turns greenish. Colored varieties skip this step. Once dismissed as bland, cauliflower has become a culinary chameleon, roasted, riced, mashed, or turned into pizza crust. Its neutral flavor absorbs whatever you give it. Eggs can be preserved for months without refrigeration. Fresh eggs have a natural protective coating called the bloom that seals the shell's pores. American eggs are washed, removing this coating, which is why they require refrigeration. While European eggs, often unwashed, do not. Water glassing, submerging eggs in sodium silicate solution, was a popular preservation method that kept eggs viable for 6 months to a year. Chinese century eggs are cured in alkaline clay for weeks, transforming the yolk into a dark, creamy substance, and the white into translucent amber. Before refrigeration, preserving eggs was a survival skill, the difference between having protein through winter or going without. Salt mines look like underground cathedrals. The Wieliczka mine in Poland, operating since the 13th century, extends over 180 miles of tunnels. Miners carved chapels, sculptures, and chandeliers entirely from crystalline salt. The Chapel of St. Kinga features intricate altarpieces and reliefs, all salt. The mine is now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The Kura mine in Pakistan features pink and red formations. Romania's Salina Turda has been converted into an underground amusement park inside a massive salt cavern. These subterranean spaces are monuments to both human need and human artistry. Hidden wonders carved from the most essential seasoning on Earth. Real vanilla extract takes months to produce. After vanilla beans are harvested and cured, itself a months-long process, they are chopped and soaked in alcohol. The alcohol slowly extracts vanillin and over 200 other aromatic compounds, developing vanilla's complex flavor profile. Commercial production typically takes 6 months or more. Imitation vanilla is synthesized from wood pulp or petrochemicals in hours, cheaper, but containing only one compound instead of hundreds. The difference is noticeable in simple preparations like custard or ice cream, though less so in heavily spiced baked goods. That teaspoon of real extract represents months of patience across multiple continents. We crave comfort food because our bodies are wired to seek it. When stressed, cortisol levels rise, and the brain seeks calorie-dense foods that trigger dopamine and serotonin release, creating a brief neurochemical reward. But comfort food is also deeply tied to memory. The foods we find most soothing are almost always connected to positive experiences. Childhood meals, family gatherings, moments of safety and warmth. The smell of baking bread, a bowl of soup on a cold night, a dish your grandmother made. These foods do not just nourish the body, they activate memory pathways that transport us to times when we felt cared for. Comfort food is edible nostalgia. Cooking may have made us human. Anthropologist Richard Wrangham argues that the control of fire and the cooking of food was the critical innovation that drove human evolution. Cooking breaks down tough plant fibers and denatures proteins, making food easier to chew and digest. This meant our ancestors could extract far more calories from the same amount of food, spending less time eating and less energy digesting. The surplus energy fueled brain growth. Our brains consume roughly 20% of our energy. An extraordinary demand that raw food alone may not have been able to sustain. Cooking shrank our guts, grew our brains, and gave us time. Time to think, to talk, to gather around a fire and become human. The communal table may be one of humanity's most important inventions. Eating together strengthens social bonds, establishes trust, and creates shared identity. Anthropologists believe that communal meals were central to early human cooperation. Sharing food required trust, and trust enabled everything else. Today, families who eat together regularly report stronger relationships. Business deals are sealed over dinner. Diplomacy happens at state banquets. Religious traditions from the Eucharist to Shabbat, dinner to Iftar center on shared meals. The table is where we become a group, where strangers become friends, and families stay connected. The act of passing a dish to someone is an ancient gesture of generosity that predates language. Behind every meal are hands you will never see. The farmer who woke before dawn, the picker who worked in heat, the driver who transported the harvest, the baker who shaped the loaf, the fisherman who hauled the net. The invisible labor behind food is vast and often undervalued. Seasonal farm workers harvest the fruits and vegetables that fill supermarket shelves, frequently for low wages and in difficult conditions. Coffee farmers in developing nations often earn a fraction of the retail price. The convenience of modern food systems obscures the human effort embedded in every ingredient. To eat consciously is to remember that someone's hands touched everything on your plate. Seasonal eating connects us to the rhythm of the natural world. Before refrigeration and global shipping, people ate what the land provided when it provided it. Spring brought asparagus and tender greens. Summer delivered tomatoes, berries, and stone fruits. Autumn offered apples, squash, and root vegetables. Winter meant preserved foods, dried grains, and hearty stews. This rhythm shaped not just diets but cultures, harvest festivals, preserving traditions, recipes built around what was available. Modern supermarkets offer everything year-round, disconnecting food from season. But eating seasonally, a peach in August, a butternut squash in November, still carries a pleasure that imported produce cannot replicate. The taste of something at its peak, in its moment. The smell of bread baking activates deep memory pathways in the brain. Olfaction is the sense most directly connected to the limbic system, the brain's emotional and memory center. A single scent can trigger vivid, involuntary recall of experiences decades old. The warm, yeasty aroma of baking bread is one of the most universally comforting smells, associated across cultures with home, safety, and nourishment. Estate agents know this. Some advise sellers to bake bread before viewings. The smell does not just signal that food is coming, it signals that someone cared enough to make it. It is warmth made airborne. Grandmother recipes are rarely written down with precision. A pinch of this, a handful of that, cook until it looks right. They are transmitted through presence, through watching, through standing beside someone in a kitchen and absorbing the rhythm of their hands. This is oral tradition in its purest edible form. When a grandmother's recipe is lost because no one stood beside her and learned, something irreplaceable disappears. It is not just a dish, it is a connection to a person, a place, a time. The families who preserve these recipes are keeping a form of love alive, measured not in teaspoons, but in memory. There is a particular pleasure in making something from scratch that no shortcut can replicate. Kneading bread dough, rolling pasta by hand, stirring risotto for 20 minutes, slowly caramelizing onions until they turn golden. These tasks take time, and that is precisely the point. In a world optimized for speed and efficiency, slow cooking is a quiet rebellion. The process itself becomes the reward. The rhythm of stirring, the transformation of raw ingredients, the smell that fills the kitchen. The result always tastes better, not because the method is superior to every alternative, but because you were present for the entire journey from beginning to plate. Morning rituals with food anchor the start of every day. The kettle boiling, coffee brewing, toast browning. The small repeated acts that signal the transition from sleep to waking. These routines are not dramatic, they are not memorable individually, but accumulated over years, they become the texture of a life, the quiet scaffolding that holds everything else together. Whether it is tea and toast in London, café au lait and a croissant in Paris, congee in Guangzhou or miso soup in Tokyo, morning food rituals are how cultures greet the day. They are private, meditative, and deeply personal. The first conversation between you and the world each morning. A warm bowl of soup on a cold night is one of the simplest and most complete forms of comfort that food can offer. It requires nothing elaborate. Broth, vegetables, perhaps some grain or noodle, heat and time. Soup has sustained humans through illness, poverty, grief, and winter for as long as pots have existed. It stretches ingredients, it nourishes gently, it warms from the inside. Every culture has its essential soup: pho in Vietnam, minestrone in Italy, tom yum in Thailand, chicken soup in Jewish tradition, harira in Morocco during Ramadan. The specifics vary endlessly. The comfort is universal. The last meal of the day carries its own quiet significance. It is the moment when work is done, when the kitchen fills with warmth, when families gather or solitary eaters settle into their evening. Dinner marks the transition from activity to rest. The foods we choose for evening tend toward warmth and satisfaction. Stews, roasts, pasta, rice, bread. The body begins its nightly wind down, and food is part of that process. A good evening meal does not just feed you, it signals to your body and mind that the day is ending, that comfort is here, that rest is approaching. It is sustenance and ceremony blended into a single plate. Food is memory, identity, comfort, and connection, all at once. The taste of a particular dish can transport you instantly across decades. To a childhood kitchen, a holiday table, a meal shared with someone you loved. Food marks our celebrations and our mournings. It defines regions, nations, and families. It is the first thing we offer guests and the last thing we share with the dying. It is ordinary and sacred, daily and profound. Every ingredient carries a story of the land where it grew, the hands that harvested it, the traditions that shaped how it was prepared. To eat is to participate in an unbroken chain of human experience, stretching back to the first fire, the first grain, the first meal shared between two people who chose to sit together. And so the kitchen goes quiet. And so, dear listener, our journey through the world of food comes to a gentle close. We have wandered through 14,000 years of bread, through honey that never spoils, and tomatoes that were once feared. We have followed spices across oceans, watched potatoes change the course of history, and tasted chocolate that was once more precious than gold. We have met Escoffier in his kitchen, Jiro at his sushi counter, and Pasteur saving wine without knowing he was saving lives. Food is never just fuel. It is culture, identity, adventure, and art. It is the result of countless human choices across thousands of years. Every plant selected, every technique refined, every flavor passed from one generation to the next. When you bite into bread, you are tasting a food older than civilization. When you add salt, you are reaching for a substance that once ransomed cities. When you pour honey, you are holding something that will outlast you. As you lie here now, let the warmth of these stories settle. Imagine the smell of bread baking, the steam rising from a bowl of soup, the sweetness of honey on your tongue, the warmth of cinnamon, the coolness of mint. Let these flavors drift through your mind, gentle and familiar. Tomorrow you will eat again, and perhaps you will taste your food a little differently. Noticing the complexity in a simple strawberry, the history in a pinch of pepper, the quiet miracle in a warm loaf of bread. But that is for tomorrow. For now, rest. Let everything grow still. Let the kitchen go dark, the oven cool, the table empty. Sleep is its own kind of nourishment, as ancient and essential as the food that sustains us. Rest now. Sleep well. Good night.